All righty, so we're just going to wait for a few attendees to join us. I see them slowly trickling in, so this is exciting. All right, welcome to the attendees who are here. We're going to wait a few minutes to see if we have anyone who joins after. Sometimes people can run a little bit late, but this is the webinar on using nature-based to inform policy and strategies for climate and natural resource management. Today we'll have a quick introduction of naturebase, and then we will go through naturebase.org, have a demonstration of the system, and then we'll leave room for questions and answers at the end. We would love if you could put in the chat who you are, so your name, your job title, and definitely where you're coming from, because it's so exciting when we see people from around the globe, and we love to interact with everyone. So please, if you can drop in the chat your name and where you're from and what you do. All right, a few more attendees are coming in. So again, we'll just wait a few minutes and then we should be good to go. And please do, for the people who've just joined us, we'd love if you can put your name, job title, where you're from in the chat so we can get a sense of who's here. And we'd love to interact with you, especially during the question and answers segment. So please do use the chat function throughout the webinar if you have any questions, and we'll address them at the end. I'm not sure what time it is where our attendees are coming from. It's a comfortable 1 p.m. in the UK where I am. I know for some of my colleagues it's 5 or 6 a.m. in the morning. So I hope everyone has their coffee if they need it. All right, what do you think, Tom? Would you like to wait a few more minutes, or would you like to get cracking?
There's still a few more coming in, isn't there? So I'll just
Yeah.
give a little bit more of a breathing space. If you could, it would be great if you could just tell us where you're dialing in from and what job you do. It'd be really useful for us to know a little bit more about you. So do put that into the chat. And yeah, it would be great to find out a little bit more about you. I think I'm just going to give it a minute or two if that's all right, Amanda.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. What you can do, Tom, is put where you're from in the chat, and maybe
Oh
that's
yeah.
wall rolling. Oh, we have one. Hello, I'm Novi Adi, a geospatial analyst by profession working at the Ministry of Marine Affairs and Fisheries in Indonesia. Well, welcome, Novi. Our ministry is the national focal point for blue carbon in Indonesia. It's really great to have you here, and we hope you find this demonstration informative, Novi. Thanks for putting it in the chat.
Yeah. Well, since we have one, Amanda, perhaps I will get started as we'll leave everyone to wait. I know I've seen one face, one person I know in the chat. So hello, Neelish. Look forward to presenting this to you and really look forward to taking you through naturebase. The format for today will be to give an introduction to naturebase, fairly short, just 10 minutes from me. My name's Tom Beckett. I'm head of development for Nature for Climate, and then we'll go through naturebase.org and how you use that. We'll give you a demo of the system, and then it'll be followed by questions and answers. So please think of any questions and answers you have. We know that a number of you are from agencies which have got interactions with governments, or indeed you're from a government yourself. So we'd be really interested to learn from you how you might use naturebase and in terms of your interaction with governments. So do put questions from that regard into the chat, and then we'll have a closing feedback. But before I kind of dive into all of that, I wanted to introduce all the panelists which are here today, and let them kind of say a few words about themselves. So firstly, Amanda, over to you.
Hi again, everyone. I'm Amanda Liang. I originate from Trinidad, but I'm so happy to be working with the nature-based team as their support manager. So I'm here today to just give them a little extra support if they need it. I'll pass on to Patricia now.
Hi everyone, I'm Patrizia D'Amata. I'm the communications lead for Nature for Climate and been working with the team building this platform for you. So very excited to share this with you today. I'll pass it over to Chris.
Chris, I think you need to come off. You're still on mute, Chris.
There we go. Sorry about that. Chris Skyner here with the Nature Conservancy and Nature for Climate team, co-leading nature-based project with Patricia. And I'll pass it over to Bill.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. My name is Bill Pollock, and I'm the UX research and design lead for naturebase. And then I guess Tom.
Brilliant. Yeah, thank you very much, everyone. And we're just going to get started. First of all, I'm going to show you a quick 1-minute video about naturebase, just to kind of get us into the right frame of mind. So here we go.
We simply cannot achieve 1.5 degrees centigrade without nature. Nature can provide a third of the greenhouse gas emission reductions needed to meet Paris Agreement targets. Yet natural climate solutions only receive 3 to 8% of global climate finance. Together, we can close this gap. Introducing naturebase, a new platform designed with the latest scientific data and insights to help policymakers, practitioners, project managers make informed decisions to implement high-integrity projects that benefit people and the planet. naturebase ensures a clear path forward by providing guidance on why, where, and how to deploy natural climate solutions by exploring pathways on a global, national, and local level, identifying additional natural climate solutions benefits, showcasing best practices, opportunities, and constraints. naturebase helps put natural climate solutions into action by showing where activities can have the greatest impact. Together, we can take action to protect, better manage, and restore nature. Join our community to shape the future of the platform and the planet. Unlock nature's potential with naturebase.
Brilliant. So I wanted to give a very brief introduction to the creation of naturebase. This is a free-to-use platform which was created by a collaborative effort by some of the leading scientists in the world who work for global NGOs, academics, and government agencies. It comes off the back of a landmark study in 2017 that showed nature could be a third of the climate solution. It secured significant funding to advance the intelligence within that space through the creation of naturebase. So for the first time, naturebase has got a global view of the potential for natural climate solutions to be deployed to help mitigate for climate change. In the creation of naturebase, there've been the interview of 233 people, and they've all been asked how naturebase should work, focusing really on customer need and how naturebase might be used to engage communities and users. Our aim is to make one accessible place where everyone can find out about mitigation potential of any land area in the world. So what can naturebase do? It identifies where, why, and how to implement high integrity nature-based projects with the highest carbon mitigation impact whilst protecting livelihoods and biodiversity. How naturebase works is it uses historic land system maps up on a global scale to identify how land has been used in the past through particular points. It then uses geospatial analysis to identify how land is being used currently, and then marries those two pieces of data at a kilometer pixel specification to identify which natural climate solution could be deployed in any land area across the world. Natural climate solutions which are embedded within naturebase, of course, follow a hierarchy: protect, manage, and then restore. Using the system of naturebase, we can identify where land is losing nature, and that might be through loss of forests or coastal wetlands. And naturebase then can see how much has been lost over the years using that those historic reference points to identify what would happen if those land areas were protected, and can give you the carbon mitigation potential through through the protect pathway. Manage, naturebase identifies the potential to manage mostly agricultural areas to increase soil carbon or practices to achieve climate mitigation potential and benefits, and notably doesn't permit the implementation of these pathways in areas where there would be a loss of forests or peatlands. Restore, naturebase identifies potential for an area to be restored, and this could be areas which need to be reforested or where we might want to implement peatland restoration, giving climate mitigation potential and co-benefits for each. It does not, and notably, it doesn't permit the loss of agricultural land through restoration pathways, as this is a high-level decision which has been deployed through naturebase. There is co-benefit information embedded within naturebase. We've called this co-benefits because we've looked and have created naturebase through a carbon lens. But really, the co-benefits might be why you're here today. There are ecosystem service co-benefits which are embedded within naturebase, which identify things like water quality, flood protection, green water storage, nitrogen retention. We are going to be introducing in November 2024 biodiversity benefits of implementing natural climate solutions, and we will be including an evidence map during 2025, which will bring together 200,000 peer-reviewed articles evidencing co-benefits from each natural climate solution pathway. So naturebase is for everybody, but for those people which are doing particular jobs and looking at how you might implement natural climate solutions, we find and have segmented particular audiences which we think this would be very helpful for. Now, most of those which have joined today would fall into the category of policymakers and influencers. You are people which are working with governments, or you are working directly with governments to think about how you can deploy nature as a solution to climate change. You may be looking at the biodiversity and how you might tackle biodiversity challenges within a particular country. So it's very helpful in terms of constructing things like national determined contributions and determining how nature can play a big role within that. But it's also useful for communities and landowners. It could be for indigenous communities which are looking to identify how they could restore their own land areas for the benefit of climate. It could be for project implementers which are looking at where might be best places to deploy particular natural climate solutions. So the robustness of nature-based data for use and decision making. Data from naturebase is ready for use in identifying opportunities for natural climate solutions for any land area at a kilometre pixel resolution. It's ready for use in terms of the creation of climate change policy or plans for regions or nations. It could be, you could be creating your national biodiversity strategy or plan. You could be creating your nationally determined contribution plan. Naturebase is ready for use within that area. And the calculations of carbon can also be used to determine revenue potential of a given area through carbon credits. And why? Data is based on the best possible science to a kilometre squared resolution. The primary mitigation pathways through natural climate solutions are embedded within naturebase. We have the 16 forerunning climate mitigation pathways, and we'll be adding 7 more later. And the climate mitigation potential of each pathway is conservative. Most project developers which we've been speaking to in this space have been telling us that the figures which are drawn from naturebase are conservative, that they think that you can derive more carbon benefit through implementing a project in a given space. But that's very helpful in terms of developing policies and informing policies in the creation. And it's really important to recognize that they are conservative, the figures which we provide. Naturebase feature overview. There's a lot to cover within naturebase, and we won't go into everything in detail within this demo. There's ecosystem service benefits, there's area ranking and comparisons, there's draw upload custom features. We're even just about to implement a report download, which allows for you to go about looking at particular areas and then downloading a report. There's biodiversity connectivity, which will be coming later. There's data and resources, and a huge amount of linked resources for naturebase. Human rights screening tool, there's an NCS accounting handbook, there's a huge resource library, and you can download any of the data which is used within naturebase so that could be integrated in some of your other projects. You can create user accounts, which allow for you to save project analysis and to develop your own newsletters. Well, actually, sorry, that you can sign up for our newsletters and our learning networks and become part of our community. So the live demo, we will talk about how naturebase can instantly estimate the climate benefits for any country or sub-national land area. And you can use this data to inform nationally determined contributions, or your NDCs, your own BSAPs. And it will allow you to compare areas with the greatest potential for carbon mitigation and for the co-benefits. So without hesitation, I will pass over to Patricia, which will take you through a little bit of naturebase.org.
Yes, hi everyone. So I think just as a first step on your journey as you're discovering naturebase, it's worth mentioning that we do have a landing page, which is called, the address is naturebase.org. And on this page, a lot of the questions that I'm sure just popping up in your heads now will likely be answered. We have loads of information on what the platform is, what it's offering, also all of their the key features that it entails, some new and some upcoming as well, so that you can have a look and see which one of those would be most useful for your work. We also have a lot of information on natural climate solutions itself and all of the pathways that we're considering for estimating the carbon mitigation benefits and the biodiversity benefits. We understand that as we travel around the world, there are many names to the same thing. A lot of people talk about nature-based solutions, natural climate solutions, ecosystem-based approaches. It might be that you're doing an intervention based on a biome, so you're just calling it land use strategies, or you're doing something for biodiversity, but not really considering the natural climate solution out of it, so the carbon benefits that it could entail. So we have a bit more information on that. We explain where we get our data from and some of the methodologies. It's worth mentioning that each pathway has its own methodology, so it varies slightly as it should. But there's information there as well, a huge FAQ with lots of questions answered. We also have some inspiring stories so that you can actually take a bit of inspiration from real world experience and like really seeing how much benefits such interventions can arise. And we were aiming to tell a lot more of those in the future. And then also we have a page for you to get involved, to talk to us to provide your feedback and your ideas. Those are super important as we understand that naturebase is an ever-evolving platform. And also to sign up with our newsletter and keep in touch with all of the updates, all of the news stories, and all of the relevant information that might lead you on. But yeah, without further ado, I'll just pass it over to Chris so that he can actually go onto the platform and show you how it works.
Thank you, Patricia. So this, as Tom said, this is the platform here. It's a carbon-facing platform, but we do bring in a lot of additional information around co-benefits, policies, and case studies, because all of these blended benefits together will really help people identify where the best areas are to begin to implement natural climate solutions projects. We're starting out here at a global view. We do offer translation into a variety of languages, and we are continually increasing the number of languages here. I have to say that in the 3 or 4 months since we've launched our beta version, we have had visitors from over 120 different countries coming to NatureBase. So this is very inspiring and really encouraging us to beef up these translations, but this is a good start right here. So as you see on the site, this is a global platform created from data that is at a high resolution at a 1 kilometer scale. And what we do here is we show the aggregated results through various units of boundaries, whether they're political or environmental in terms of watersheds or ecoregions. And I'll show you in a few minutes how we can add custom areas, whether we allow you to upload them as a user or draw them directly on the map. But as you see here, this is the accounting of the different interventions that one could take. We have 16 in here now, and we will increase this by 7 at the end of June. As you look at a particular area, you can click onto the map, or in this case, we'll type in a sample country. We'll go straight to Zambia. And now all of the interventions and the climate mitigation totals are subject only to what's in your view here of Zambia. And you see that for all of the 16 interventions that we demonstrate here, there is an opportunity to mitigate 44 million tons of CO2 per year. Why is this important? I'm going to flip over because you're all policy folks on this call, or most of you are. Why is this important? Well, let's take Zambia's nationally determined contribution. This is what Zambia is committing to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions by 2030. And you can see here with international support, they hope to decrease their annual emissions by 47%. So in the case of Zambia, this equals 38,000 gigatons or 38 megatons. And as I just showed you, for Zambia alone, using only natural climate solutions, they could in total reduce their emissions by 44 megatons of CO2 per year. This exceeds their target. It exceeds their ambition in their NDC. So I'll go back to the application. And now one might say, well, what are the interventions of the highest opportunity? Well, we can sort the potentials here, and we see that grassland restoration is the highest potential to mitigate climate change in Zambia, provided there's a lot of other interventions as well. So let's click on grassland restoration. And now we see the distribution in these political units here going from state to district within Zambia. And now I want to see, okay, well, where is the top opportunity to implement NCS? And I see here in this state, we click on this and it zooms directly into here. This is good. This is where the highest amount of potential could be for grassland restoration in Zambia. So I would like to add this to my workspace to save it for later. And you see it pops up here in your workspace. Now, where's the second most likely candidate for a state? And we see here it's in the southern state. So I'll also add this one to my workspace. And now you see they're both added here. Well, let's go one step further. What if political boundaries are not what I'm interested in planning around? I can upload my unique sites by just simply dragging and dropping them here in the application. And when I do that, you can see that my custom areas are automatically put into the system and also saved here in my workspace. Let's say that I don't have a boundary file, or I want to create my own unique boundary file. You can draw directly onto the map. And as you do that, you define an area, you run the analysis, give it a name. And now you see that the grassland restoration benefit is 55,000 tons for this newly drawn area here. All of this that I've shown you, you can do without logging in, without signing up, free to use, free to analyze, free to download the data. But if you want to save your projects, if you want to save your work to either come back to them later for refinement or to share them or to download the data, you will have to save your project. But before you can save your project, you have to have an account. So this is where you'll need to sign up for an account with just your email and a password. I'll put in mine for example. And now when you sign in, you see that you have your own unique private account. This is completely private. Only you have access to it. And then you can save your project. We'll give it a name. Zambia. Save it, and now it's saved. And you'll see it here in your project portfolio tab. This is the site I just created. I have 9 geographies. I selected 2, I uploaded a variety of them, and I drew them on the map. Here you can download the tabular data, so it gives you a listing of the interventions and the amount of climate mitigation potential for each one of those within the given area. And where you can view the report, the summary report, you can view, print, and share with a URL link. And then anyone you share this link to can see the exact same report that you have here. And this is interesting because you can choose a variety of pathways to look at if you wanted to look at one in particular, like grassland restoration, which was the maximum. And then you see all of your uploaded areas and your drawn areas and your selected areas are available here. You can isolate to just a few areas, and now you see a cross comparison of the relative amounts of climate mitigation for each one of these areas. And again, this is fully dynamic, so you can go back and select all the pathways again and sort and do rankings like this and look at sites across different matrix of values for natural climate solutions. We also show our associated co-benefits. These are ecosystem services that can either be enhanced or maintained through the activity of a natural climate solutions project. So what is the benefit of reforesting an area in terms of water quality and water storage? What is the benefit of reducing deforestation in terms of water runoff and sedimentation? All of these impacts to ecosystem services are reported here, again, across your areas of interest. Now going back to our project area, we have a co-benefits tab here, which we can quickly see for our particular area. I'll come back in here. And now we see the benefits of reforestation in terms of how they impact ecosystem services. So for this state here within Zambia, reforestation will offer these benefits. We have biodiversity information coming in at the end of the year. We'll be focusing first on connectivity. So how can the implementation and the creation of an NCS project support connectivity and enhance biodiversity? Later on in 2025 and beyond, we'll be looking at specific quantitative values of impact that natural climate solutions can have on specific aspects of biodiversity. We're still developing the science and working with partners to produce that information. Along the top, you'll see a variety of other tabs and resources. As I said before, anything on naturebase is freely downloadable, open source, free to use. All of the data that you see on naturebase can be downloaded here in tabular and in original data form at the 1 kilometer resolution, along with methods, descriptions, and peer-reviewed citations where they're appropriate. naturebase will not do this alone. naturebase shows you where the potential opportunity is. There's a lot of other resources that we need to bring to our user to help them not only develop a project, but secure and identify funding, secure and identify policies that might catalyze and support decision-making, and also linking to other tools and platforms and resources that guide the user on monitoring protocols and establishing learning networks and the like. I do encourage everyone to look at the help. We have a lot of information on the data and FAQs, a glossary of terms, plenty of resources to help you use the tool, case studies, examples, self-guided tours. And of course, we want to hear from you. We're building this tool for users, for practitioners. So give us feedback, tell us more information that you have, update us on new policies that may be emerging from your particular area. And with that, I will open the floor for questions. Who has the first question?
Brilliant stuff. Thank you so much, Chris. Great demonstration. Wonderful to see how this might be used. Now, we're intrigued. Us as panelists would love to find out how you might use naturebase, or indeed any questions which you have about how you might apply this within your work. So please put those into the chat, any questions which you have. And just go about just putting any questions you have into the chat, and we'll come back to you. Here we go. We've got our first one here. Thank you, Nobby. Are nature-based mitigation actions on marine coastal areas available, e.g. mangrove, seagrass, salt marsh restoration? Over to Chris.
Great question. I am going to go back to the platform because I think it's always fun to talk and show something at the same time. So, Novi, I know you're from Indonesia, so I've zoomed right in here to Indonesia. And we have so far in our coastal category here, we have avoided wetland, coastal wetland conversion. And this now is looking at avoiding the conversion of mangroves. So what is the climate mitigation potential if conversion of mangroves is stopped in a particular area? And this has been developed from a native resolution of 30 meters. But we aggregate it in particular areas here so that we can see the relative potential for particular areas when you're talking about avoiding mangrove conversion. In June, we are going to bring in salt marsh, meaning we can show the climate mitigation potential of avoiding salt marsh conversion and also restoring salt marsh. So by June, we'll have restoration of mangroves, avoiding conversion of mangroves, restoration of salt marsh, tidal marsh, and the avoided conversion of tidal marsh. We don't have seagrass yet. We're still working on that. As you probably know, working in the marine environment, it is uniquely hard to map seagrasses because they just sit below the surface of the water. So a lot of that mapping and analysis has to be done manually. We're looking at regional models and also country-based models to report grassland extent. But look for that coming in 2025.
So brilliant, Chris. That was a very thorough answer. Now, if Novi, if you have any follow-up questions, and you're very, you can quite happily put your hand up. Now we also have Deep who's put their hand up. I'm going to allow you to talk, Deep, and come in with a question. So I'm just going to click that button to allow you to talk. If you'd like to come in with your question, I'll ask you to unmute as well. If you have a question, then please fire away.
Am I audible actually? Okay, thank you so much. I will be very brief. I have been using naturebase since the day you rolled to train and conduct state roundtables throughout the country. And we have completed 12 state roundtables and one national roundtable. So that's a bit of information for you. This roundtable includes all the senior officers of the Indian Forest Service and the State Forest Service of those states. Quickly, I should say that largely, I have also assembled another database wherein about 200,000 research papers about India and the topics that are included within natural climate solutions. So more or less, I find this resource a great resource. There are some issues and two prominent ones. One is very simple. I believe that you may not be able to resolve, is about the comments that I often receive that when you show India, it is not the political boundary that government of India accepts as political boundary. So, towards Kashmir, Jammu Kashmir, I understand the challenge. I have worked with the World Bank for 2 years and I know the challenge. I was in Washington actually. The second one, I was in the headquarters of, that was 2003 to 2006. And also Center for International Forest Research in Indonesia.
Steve, that's so brilliant. And so great that you've been using it. We will be in touch for a testimonial for sure. Now, I suppose there's a question here about the states of India and having those follow the political boundaries. Chris, do you want to address that one?
Yeah, this issue is coming up. We have a lot of areas of disputed boundaries. I believe in this case we are. Maybe I'll have to double check on that, but I thought we were adhering to the political boundaries defined by our India chapter, our India country program. But I'll look into that more specifically and make sure that we are accurately either reporting it as the Indian government would suggest, or else reporting it as a disputed area. But thank you for the comment, and we'll look into this. And this is why we're here. This is why we're doing this. We want to get the feedback. Again, we want to make this platform usable, accessible, and friendly for everyone there. So thank you for that comment. We'll look into it.
It was so brilliant. We'll definitely be in touch. We are looking for user cases to be able to promote naturebase, so we'll be in touch. Thank you so much. Do raise your hand again if you've got a follow-up point. We've also got a question from Ana Prieto Lopez. Many thanks for the presentation. I have a question. What are your data sources? I'm going to hand that over to Chris.
I'm smiling because this is I think the most common question we get, and it is also the most difficult to answer. So it's quite a challenge. And I say it's difficult to answer only because, we're showing right now in the platform 16 individual data sets. Soon we'll have 24. Each one of those pathway data sets has been created with its own unique methodology, its own input data sets. So there's not a one answer that describes the entire breadth of all the data we produce. But as Tom mentioned in the beginning, it is the foundation of most of the source data for these products comes from satellite imagery, satellite-derived analysis. It comes from looking at historical land use and land change. So if we're looking at an area that is suitable for protection, we know this because we've done a historical analysis to determine what are the loss rates or what are the conversion rates of these habitats. So that's how we know how much climate benefit could be achieved through protecting those forests. You have a country that has a particular deforestation rate. If you halt that conversion, then the carbon that is maintained is the climate benefit. The reverse of that is restoration. So we look at where has conversion taken place and where are areas suitable for restoration. Then those area extents become the area in which the climate benefit for reforestation is available. So each one uses different input data sets. Some are soil-based, some are using our tree and species database. A lot of them are agricultural based, so we have a variety of agricultural maps. The uniqueness of NatureBase is that these are global. So it won't tell you where specifically to work. It can, but within certain margins of error. But it is global data set, so you can compare activities across countries and across different regions and keep the same sort of uniformity in the analysis. What it does show you, because we do aggregate this high resolution data to particular areas, it lets you look across a landscape and see where areas of potential are greater or lower in reference to each other. So it can sort of clue you in. It determines your base of operations, if you will, of which areas, watersheds, ecoregions, states, or counties are most suitable for the activities of interest to me.
Brilliant. I had exactly the same question for Chris and thank you, Chris. It's a very fluent answer. Thank you very much indeed. We also have Novi Adi, who's coming with a question on the Q&A. 2 questions. Is the spatial resolution 1 kilometer or 30 meters cubed? 30 meters squared, sorry. Is there a technical report to learn about the methodology, e.g. the emission factor used, etc.? Over to Chris.
Yes, another great question, and I will again share because it's fun to talk and show at the same time. So yeah, I may have sort of confused when I was talking specifically about the mangrove data, because mangrove data is produced at a high resolution using 30 or 20 meter sentinel data. The native resolution of that data set is unique from all the others, in that it is at a 30 meter resolution. But all of the other data sets have been produced at a 1 kilometer resolution in their native resolution. You can see all the methodologies and descriptions of the data, including the emissions factors used. We mostly follow UNFCCC, the IPCC Tier 1 and 2 estimations where appropriate, and where we do have available science and information for localized flux rates, meaning the amount of mitigation potential. We do incorporate those as well. I also want to bring to your attention that these data sets do have a unique hierarchy, and that information is contained here. And when I say hierarchy, it's basically how do you add up all of the different activities in a particular area. We follow a set of rules, and all of these rules have been published and they're peer reviewed in the last couple of years. We give a brief overview here of the description. We have prioritization rules for the different biomes and the different actions, and then a full accounting of the methods and approaches are available in more detail here. Thank you for the question. That was a good one.
That's brilliant. Now we have a question from Neelish. Let's say I have an existing afforestation project with its inception date 3 years ago. It seems then that I can use NatureBase to benchmark how efficiently is the said carbon project actually sequestering carbon versus its true potential, as suggested by the respective pathway here. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. That's a great example. So I will say this again. I think I've said it many times. I want to say it again to drive this home, but NatureBase is not a monitoring tool. So what you're describing is you are measuring the work done in the past 3 years. You're measuring that based on a monitoring protocol that you've set up on your site. you started at a baseline 3 years ago that can be informed by nature-based. So 3 years ago, let's say we build a time machine and we're 3 years ago now, we're looking at nature-based. You can say, well, if I conduct these activities in this area, I have the potential to achieve this much. Now, fast forward 3 years, and then you can, using your monitoring protocol and your analysis, track what you've done in those 3 years in terms of climate mitigation, and see if it matches what nature-based projected in the beginning. So the value of nature-based is to show you what the potential is if you begin work. And also it serves as a measure to see, well, am I achieving most of the potential? Am I achieving all of the potential that I set out? So you can use it as a base or a benchmark for that purpose.
That's very good. Well, in the chat, we've run dry a little bit on questions, but I'm going to keep on calling.
There was one up, I think we passed up one. It says, how can I access the platform and do we need to download an app?
Go ahead, Chris. That would be great if you could answer that.
Yeah, thank you for that. Again, this is free and open source, so just go to naturebase.org, and you don't have to download an app. You can just use the website for free, no problem. You can set up a profile and an account to save your projects. We do have a mobile light version that you can access on your cell phone. It is mainly used to show total amounts for a particular country or an area, and then direct the user back to the web-based or the desktop platform for full functionality. But no, you don't need to download an app or anything like that. We've also spent a lot of time, because of the 200 plus people that we've interviewed in the beginning and all of the work that Bill's done doing one-on-one interviews with users, that it is important to create this platform so it works in areas of low bandwidth. So we've really streamlined all the data. We've streamlined the interface so it can work in areas that might have limited or slow internet access.
That's brilliant. Now, I know that we've got lots of people which are working with governments. I will encourage you to put your hands up. We've got another 6 or 7 minutes to answer any of your questions, and we would love to. So please, if you have more questions or any follow-up questions or any comments, put your hand up if you'd like to speak. Put a comment into the chat if you would like a question answered, and we'll also check out the Q&A. So just put them in there, and we'll be happy to answer them.
Yeah, and while you're doing that, I'll keep talking about policy just a bit more. And the real, when we set out to do this, we really wanted to inform decision making. We wanted to support policy. We wanted to support project implementation. Why is this important? Why is nature-based important now? Countries are defining their emission reduction targets and their goals right now. They started in 2016. They're reevaluating their NDCs this year, I believe, Patricia, right? This is the stock take. And so now is the time when we really want to step back and say, okay, did our targets meet, the appropriate ambition? We know that the total emissions reduction put forth in the Paris Accord is barely going to get us to our 2-degree goal. So we need to increase ambition. So what nature-based can do in this space is to really say, okay, along with the traditional fossil fuel reduction and energy conversion, what is available for nature, for natural climate solutions to fill the gap so countries can meet their emissions target reductions? That's what nature-based does now. It says, okay, well, I know my strategies for fossil fuel and energy conversion, energy transitions, but I haven't been able to quantify the amount that nature can offer. That's what nature-based does. So it can help countries set new targets, new ambitions. It can show countries where mechanisms using nature exist that they might not have thought of. That's the beauty of having over 20 different interventions. The traditional ones that we've always hear about are avoiding deforestation and reforestation and coastal and marsh management. But not everyone may think about grassland restoration or improving grazing practices or looking at the availability and the resource of cover crops. So that's what nature-based does. It also brings up those other sort of non-traditional pathways towards climate mitigation.
That's great. That is great, Chris. No, I think that's absolutely right. I mean, if you're looking at your NDC plans, or considering how you may use nature to deliver those plans, then naturebase is just a brilliant tool for that type of thing. And it was great to have Deep's input into this as well, and how that's being used so effectively within his role. Any more questions? Any more hands which maybe want to be raised? I will give a minute or so for that, and then we'll move towards a close. But it would be a shame if you left today and you didn't have your questions answered.
So at the risk of more questions coming in, we'll keep talking. We do want to, we've had a lot of questions from other times we've done this. So, oh, here we go. Here's a question. You want to read it, Tom?
Yeah, so does naturebase offer local best practice for reference while developing a new carbon project as per a particular pathway?
Yes, it does. In that, because of the native resolution of the data at 1 kilometer, it does take into account those local drivers. So when I say local drivers, it could be the types of deforestation. Is it commodity-based conversion? Is it urban-based conversion of lands? It also takes in that local ecological context, so the species and diversity of different vegetation. Takes in the local context of different agricultural systems. Are these agricultural crop-based? Are they rice? Predominantly rice paddies and fields like that. So the local context is definitely taken into account. We are going to increase and improve our financial assessments, so we'll be able to show where there are local financial opportunities that can help and support project development. We'll also show where are there financial constraints to implementation, whether that be costs of materials, cost of labor. We want to get to a point to where we can say at a per area basis, how much will it cost to implement one of these projects? And because we're talking about carbon projects, I do want to stress the point that one of the tenets of natural climate solutions is the respect and the appreciation of local people and indigenous peoples on the right for self-government and agency in decisions regarding their lands. So this is really important. We have a variety of tools, but I'd like Patricia just to mention that a little bit for our work with IPLC and human rights.
Yeah, sure. So there's lots of things to consider. We have been consulting and kind of like trying to build this together with a few indigenous groups. So I think first of all, is just in terms of, because this is an assessment, an opportunity-based kind of platform, there is a lot of guidance available on how to do implementation. I think that's something that we really want to stress out in terms of what actually are natural climate solutions done right, what the principles that they should follow, and what are the safeguards that you need to consider every time that you're even considering a particular pathway or an intervention in a certain area. We have also been discussing a little bit about how can we protect, the uncontacted communities, but at the same time, kind of like provide some guidance should you want to do an intervention, should a policy come forward that requires intervention in a certain area that is occupied or that is owned, or they have land tenure from indigenous peoples or local communities. And also, I think to inform that, good policy also needs to consider nature, and it needs to consider the people and the livelihoods that they entail. So a lot of the stories that we are telling and the case studies that we're trying to map out to be featured, they all try to encompass that multidisciplinary component of any natural climate solutions, is that it needs to relate to the livelihoods of the people that are living there, whether they're riverside communities, communities that depend on fishing. So it's all connected and it's all very well balanced. And that's why we're trying to not only focus on the hard data and the science and the numbers that we are providing, but at the same time, all of the other things that are need to be considered for a holistic approach that really provide a long-lasting impact for everyone.
Yeah, it can't be overstated. You know, most of the global potential for natural climate solutions and nature-based solutions exists on lands that are under some sort of management or control or tenure of indigenous and local communities. So it is imperative that when we're delivering this data and information that we do respect and give agency to those people owning and operating and managing the land.
Brilliant. Well, look, I think that's as much as we have time for before I give a kind of brief close to the session. You know, I think it would be really interesting. And this is, oh, wait a second. We'll see if we can come to that news quickly. Does anyone got a quick answer for this one? Do you have plans for integrating the baseline mentioned by naturebase as a credible data solution whilst undertaking a validation and verification exercise with a global carbon standard such as Vera, Gold Standard, Plan Vivo? That is a very apt question. Chris, quick answer, please.
Quick answer. The quick answer is yes, we do have plans for that. So the one thing I didn't mention is that also coming up in June, we will give an accounting of our what we call our uncertainty or our confidence. How confident are we in reporting these values? And yes, as we move forward, the science and the data will improve, and that improvement will be done by validation and verification. Eventually, we want to become the gold standard for Vera and groups like that to do sort of the first line suitability assessments using nature-based data. Great question.
So brilliant. Thank you so much for everyone's questions today. We would love some feedback for our webinars. We'd also love it if you just dove into naturebase and started using it. So please, directly after this webinar, we will send you an email. Please hit that link and give us some feedback about the webinar itself, and also tell us how you might be using naturebase so that we can kind of touch base with you and find out if there's any ways in which we can support. You can learn more through naturebase.org, and if you've got any questions, just fire us an email through info@naturebase.org, or you can just reply to any of the emails we've sent you in the build-up to this webinar. We'll be holding 2 sessions on the 11th and 12th of June, which are during office hours sessions, so you can meet members of the naturebase team and you can bring very particular examples of your projects too, and very particular problems which you might be wanting to tackle, and we can go about supporting you through those particular sessions. We will email all attendees to invite them to those sessions. And indeed, if you would like, we'll set up one-to-one calls with you to talk you through how you can use naturebase for your own challenge. So please just reach out and we will set those things up with you. And do sign up for our newsletter and submit any ideas and give us any feedback through naturebase.org/involved. It's been great having you here. Thank you so much. And I'm afraid it's coming towards the close of our session. You know, before you go, do raise your hand if you intend to use naturebase in the future. Do add any comments just to say thank you. But I'm going to pass over to the panelists. It's a thank you from me, and I'll pass over to Bill to say a few words, to say goodbye, and then he can pass over to Chris and on the way out.
Yeah, thank you very much, everyone, for participating and for your thoughtful questions. That was very helpful. We're looking forward to speaking with you more, maybe in the one-on-one calls or the open sessions. Chris?
Yes, thank you so much. Great questions. And again, we're building this tool to be used for you. So please, feedback, inputs. We'll be happy to follow up and work with you individually if needed. So thank you very much. Patricia?
Yeah, thanks so much. And maybe just one more request. The nature-based team will be at Bonn at the UNFCCC Intersessionals pretty much next week. So if any of you are around or anyone from your organizations are there, do reach out and let us know. We can do a quick demo with you as well, or just follow up on it, any questions that you might have here. And thanks so much for participating today. So Amanda?
Yeah, just as my colleague said, thank you so much for turning up today and participating. We really appreciate the interaction and we look forward to hearing from you guys in the future.
Thank you.
Back to Tom.
Right, well, thank you very much. I think that's a close for us for today. Thank you so much for joining. I'll keep the panelists on the session. We usually have a little bit of a chat afterwards, but we'll have to say goodbye to everyone here. So if you can exit, or if you want to put any outgoing comments, then please do. Yeah, it's been great having you with us. Thank you so much, Deek. We will be in touch. Thank you. Thank you, Kaluki, for joining. Thank you, Veronica. And goodbye.
Yeah, why don't we sign off and then come back in?